Tonight on the Black Channel, everyone says they want to do something about illegal aliens, but you're not going to be able to stop it until you go grab the people responsible for it in the first place. And that's not the illegals. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, the everlasting super fortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel, and I am the Black Authority. And you are listening live to the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, I want to do a little bit of a deep dive into the subject and the topic here about illegal aliens. President-elect Donald Trump did an interview with Meet the Press, and he has made it clear that he has no intention of backing down on this issue. He is going foot to the floor, or at least that's the impression you're given. And that impression is not given for no reason whatsoever. There is a reason to give the impression, because yes, they do want to do something about illegals, but you have to understand how it is and why it is they want to go about it. That it has to be done a certain way. You can't actually deal with the root of the problem, because the root of the problem is going to require mass incarceration of white people, particularly, specifically wealthy white men. White men with money, white men with resources, white men who are connected, white men at the local level, the state level, the federal level. You are going to have to go grab them. These are not guys who got into this human trafficking last night. They've been involved with this kind of human trafficking now for decades. And let's be clear, if you're employing illegals, that's human trafficking, remember? What? So if you're going to deal with that, you're going to have to go and grab them up. But I want to go into an explanation here tonight of why it is that there's only one way to stop the illegals, just one. It's actually the easiest way to do it, is to go gather up the white men, the white enterprises, the white business people who are employing them. Those are the ones. Now remember, what they're doing is illegal. What you're supposed to do is what they did to black folk in the so-called war on drugs. Why is there not a war on illegals, a war on human trafficking? Fine, we'll call it the war on human trafficking, and anybody employing illegals, you're part of human trafficking. And then you go grab them and round them up, you go take their assets, you go seize what they have. That's how you deal with that. But I want you to understand why it's not happening that way, and why it is that white society is on code about this. You've got to understand exactly how this works. I was watching a video that was about Robert Greene was talking, I think, to Microsoft employees, and they were talking about the art of war and warfare, of course, and he was talking about it in the corporate environment. He went through a lot of historical anecdotes, and then at the very end, he starts talking about how these things operate in the corporate environment. And you know what? He was absolutely right. I mean, think about any corporation in America. People, there are wars that go on in these corporations all the time. Whoever the guy is in charge, it's like Game of Thrones. It's one guy's in charge, he's the CEO, and as soon as he's the CEO, whoever got passed over is looking for a way to get in. Other folk on the board of directors, anybody who doesn't like him, they're going to start scheming against him and plotting against him. Folks in middle management, if they got a way to start undermining you. Or if you're in middle management trying to move into upper management, you're trying to undermine them. And then if you're in lower management or in the workers area, you're trying to undermine them. Everybody's going around all over the damn place. Or if you're just a mean-spirited person, you're dishonest, you're unscrupulous, you want something you don't deserve, you haven't earned. Man, that happens all the time in those places. Every other day you're hearing about some CEO got kicked out of the corporation. What's his name? Carlos Tavares just got kicked out of Stellantis. So Dodge, Chrysler, whatnot, they just ran him off. And every time you turn around, somebody else is getting kicked out of there. Somebody else is getting shown the door. Somebody else is getting stabbed in the back. Somebody else is walking the gangplank. Somebody else is getting walked to the gallows. Somebody's getting arrested. Somebody's getting indicted. Somebody's getting accused of something. Bob Chapek at Disney. Remember Bob Iger was the CEO? He said he was going to step down. He chose Bob Chapek, who was the head of the parks division at Disney. But Iger had never even left the building. He said he was stepping down, and then after he supposedly stepped down, he never even left the building. As a matter of fact, he stayed in the same office he was in. Now, what the hell kind of CEO has stepped down from the company and he's still staying in the CEO's office? Bob Chapek was there for a year before Bob Iger conspired with the other folk with some other people at the company to get Bob Chapek out of there. And now Bob Iger is back being CEO again. And round and round and on it goes. And it's a warfare environment. Now, Jason, what does this have to do with what you're discussing here tonight and what we're talking about here tonight? Everyone in white society, folks, they claim they want to deal with the illegal alien issue, yet they know who it is who is responsible, and those are the only people that they are not talking about doing something about. Now, if they have their way, yes, this will impact the white men who are employing them. It'll definitely impact them. But why is it they're going after the illegals? Why aren't they going after the source? Why are they not going after them? For the same reason that the corporations, when somebody decides to go at the CEO or a CFO or something, what happens is their goal is to undermine the CEO or the CFO. Yeah, they're having these internal wars and conflicts, but their goal is to undermine the CEO or CFO. Their goal is not to implode the corporation itself. So everything that they're doing is so that they're trying to exert as much force as they can and exert as much pressure as they can for the purposes of altering the situation, but without fundamentally changing or destroying the corporation itself. So there are going to be some snipings, there are going to be some shootouts, there are going to be some fires, might be a bomb set off on a floor or two of the building, but they are not trying to destroy the corporation itself. So the white guys who are employing the illegals are ignoring the law, not because they want to destroy the corporation that is America, but they're trying to increase their power within it, even though they are harming it by ignoring the laws. And the folks who say that they want to stop them, well, they want to stop these guys from bringing the illegals in, but they don't want to de-empower them. They don't want to depower them because they are, as always, well, what would the effect be if we take power away from one white person, especially in a systemic manner? If we turn the system against white people, particularly white males with wealth, if we turn the system against them, what the hell good is it to have a system if it's turned against us? So, no. We're going to do as much as we can to smack each other on the wrist. We're going to slap each other on the hand. But what we're not going to do is something drastic that would actually endanger the company itself. That's the plan. That's the culture you're seeing going on. That's why you and I have no problem saying, hey, go and mass incarcerate them. And meanwhile, the J.D. Vances and the Tim Pools and the Ben Shapiros, for some strange reason, they never get around to saying, you know what? We need to have mass incarceration of the people employing the illegals. But of course, these white men don't say that because there are zero black people that you can hurt with such a policy. What? Did y'all get that? It's one thing if you have a crime where black folk are at least a minority, like selling cocaine. Okay, well, you can just ignore the white cocaine dealers and just go give 50 years to all the black ones. Is another thing you're talking about fentanyl. Okay, you got 3 black fentanyl dealers and 5 million white ones. Okay, go get them 3 black ones and give them 1,000 years. At least you have some black people to arrest. You don't have any black people that you can arrest when it comes to employing illegals, bringing over illegals, trafficking illegals, transporting illegals. There's not a single black person you can grab with that. You can't do nothing but scoop up great, big, huge handfuls of white men and white women. There are no black people who can even be incidentally harmed if you start incarcerating them. That's why you ain't seen any. You've seen zero. At the local level, the state level, the federal level, they're not incarcerating anybody. Now, this is the United States of mass incarceration. I thought there was a law for everything. I thought there's folks in jail and doing all kinds of football numbers for everything. And yet, for this one offense, which is an offense, let's be clear about this. This is an offense. It is illegal. For this one offense, ain't nobody getting arrested. Now, you would figure with something as widespread to the point that it's literally a percentage of the farm industry? You want to talk about a corrupt industry? The farming industry has illegals? Okay, you think with something that widespread? How in the hell are you not incarcerating people by the thousands? Why are we not having busts and raids by the thousands? Talking about rounding up the illegals. But if you're not going to slap handcuffs on the white men who brought them here, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. If all you're going to do is go round up the illegals, you're going to round up the illegals but leave the white men who brought them here where they are, well, we all know what the hell's going to happen. You go arrest the illegals, leave the white men there with their property, with their resources. Well, tomorrow morning, he's going to be on the phone with Jorge or Vicente or whoever and telling them, hey, I need you to bring me over 1,000 more illegals. You see, when they come after black folks, like, oh, no. We're shutting the enterprise down. You got rappers being given RICO criminal charges. And yet Fannie, the fat Mammy Willis, is not using her powers to go grab these white men who are running racketeer influence, criminal, corrupt organizations. The farming industry in America is a RICO organization. The hotel industry in your large cities is largely a RICO operation. Then why is it that these are not being treated as RICOs? When all of us can sit there and say, hell, I ain't got to be a DA. I can find that for you in 5 minutes. How can that be? You already know how it is. So you see, The whole point here is to snipe at each other and to try to subtly, on the edges, on the fringes, caress and massage each other. They're not really trying to slam on the brakes, because slamming on the brakes means arresting white men in mass numbers. That's how you stop it. The only time anybody wants to discuss, quote, drastic action is if they think it's not going to do anything to white folk. Now, if they think it's going to hurt black folk, the action can't be drastic enough. The action can't be drastic enough. It can't be. Not at all. That's the first thing you find out. So when they come after us, all of a sudden the Constitution flies out the window. The Constitution flies out the window. When that happens, the way you stop illegals, and you don't even have as many of them as you did with folk in the drug trade and whatnot. The way you stop the illegals, the policies that they put in place where black folk are concerned. Folks, remember, RICO broke the mafia. RICO broke the mafia, which is why they're sitting up here trying to use it on all of us. They're trying to use that on all of us. The idea and the pictures and the images of white men being mass incarcerated, I want y'all to understand that that's not the game that they're playing. Too many folk don't actually understand how it works. That's not the game that they're playing here. We have it not. I don't want you to be confused about what you will see and what you won't see, or what you can expect or what you don't expect. I don't want you to be confused about that. And let's be clear, you could stop those things. You certainly could. You could end those things. You certainly could. You could. But all you're going to hear is more of them talking about it. You're not going to see them doing it. You're going to see more of them talking about it, because when you sit there and say, by the way, when we going to start the arrest popping? When are you going to start the arrest popping? When are they going to jump out with the handcuffs? Who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? That's when you know folks are serious. You know folks are serious when they bust out the handcuffs. It's like, oh, y'all ain't playing. Okay. They're serious about doing something. Okay, they're not kidding. The rest of the society understands that illegals do serve a purpose. They understand that. And that is the case. They understand that illegals do serve a purpose. The purpose that illegals serve, of course, is that they are economically destabilizing for black people. They are meant for the purposes of being economically and socially destabilizing for us. You take a look at all your cities where the black population boomed in the 1970s. From the 1970s to the 1990s, those are all the places that have been specifically targeted for placing illegals in. You take a look at Chicago. Show you one thing here in particular. This is from Chicago in the last little bit here. This is from Chicago, and I want to show this to you because I think this is interesting to see. For those of you who may not have been aware, over there in Syria, the United States' years-long effort to get Assad out looks like it has finally worked. But there is a story from ABC 7 in Chicago. By the way, fair use. Fair use. I want you to listen to this story here. So the rebels in Syria have apparently succeeded in, I guess, making President Assad in Syria flee the country. This is in Chicago right now.
The celebration that took place here in Congress Plaza today can only be described as an outpouring of pent-up emotion. Hundreds turning out to celebrate the downfall of the Assad regime, which has been in place in Syria since 1970 and is the reason that most of those here emigrated to the United States. Standing in the middle of the crowd in Chicago's Congress Plaza today, the sound of the drums was deafening as people danced and sang and hugged. Hundreds of Syrian Americans brought together in joyous celebration. Their home nation's 52-year dictatorship is now over, almost in the blink of an eye.
We are completely stunned by the speed of this, and we got it. This is a celebration now.
Ironically, this is a gathering that was planned yesterday, even before Bashar al-Assad resigned as president and fled Syria. Organizers intending to pile on the mounting international pressure for him to leave, not imagining it would happen this fast.
We couldn't believe it, in 1 week, and all this gone.
So they all seem to be rather happy about this and gleeful and celebrating. Found that all to be very interesting.
Recent immigrants who left Syria as decades, unable to go home for fear of political. They were people of all ages, among them many who have been here for decades, unable to go home for fear of political persecution, and many others, recent immigrants, who left Syria as refugees when the country's civil war began 13 years ago. It is a war that's claimed over 500,000 lives and seen 14 million people forced to flee their homes.
I'm feeling so happy my country's back. I have left the war when I was 4 years old, and now it's back. I'm just so happy to feel that I have a country again.
I'm so happy to feel that I have a country again. Well, I'm glad to see how assimilated and integrated she is. Glad to see that allowing her to come over here, why, glad to see that she's integrated. I have a country again. I have a place she doesn't even know. But yeah, there she is. However, I want to give a brief reminder here because I think this is important to remember. The civil war in Syria has been going on now for 13 years. It's claimed over 500,000 lives. Meanwhile, all these folk are sitting over there in Chicago. What? They're telling you about how much they love Syria, how much they love their homeland, and yet they are sitting in Chicago. Listen carefully. They are sitting in Chicago while the real people who love Syria are over there in Syria shedding blood and fighting for over a decade. The losses have been horrible and terrible. People have been arrested by Assad's government, abducted, tortured, maimed, killed, brutally murdered with impunity. And yet the people over there, the ones who fled, are sitting over here in Chicago. The real soldiers sat there, and despite the horrific bloodshed, despite the heartache and the tragedy and the calamity that they had to endure, they stayed 10 toes down, and they've been fighting. And now, after all these years, after all of this torment, after all of this adversity that they've had to overcome, after all this long suffering, they're finally receiving a reward for it. And kudos to them. For somebody who believes in it, and they are willing to stand, and they're willing to suffer, and they're willing to take whatever comes with it, I got respect for them. It's you folks here that I'm looking at funny style. And let's be clear about something. If the rebels, the people who've been fighting, let the folk who flee, the people who fled, it's been 13 years. Y'all didn't get your asses back over there to go help? Oh no, we'll stay over here in Chicago and let us know how it turns out. Do you think that you can build a prosperous nation when you've got cowards like this who at a moment's notice will get up and run? You want to talk about the ants and the grasshopper? They thought so little of Syria that they got up and ran. And even if you want to say, well, the Assads were winning back in the 70s. Okay, for the last 13 years, they've been on the back foot. For the last 13 years, the rebels been fighting. For the last 13 years, the soldiers been out there fighting. For the last 13 years, where the hell have they been for the last decade? They've been in Chicago, at their stores, playing around, bull jiving, twerking, sitting up there singing drill rap. Probably got a few bastard kids in there and whatnot, a few sex videos, smoking some weed. And then when the real soldiers and the real patriots who actually have endured and suffered and are actually built from the soil, when they actually make progress and make headway, here come the other foes. Our country, we. It ain't been we for the last 13 years. It hasn't been we for the last 10 years. It hasn't been we for the last 8 years. It hasn't been we for the last 5 years. It hasn't been we for the last 3 years. Let me explain to you all something here. If you are not willing to fight and bleed to prepare the table that you will eat at, then you should not eat.
And deal with it, nigga.
That's the bottom line. If you are too weak and too cowardly to be willing to sacrifice what is necessary to prepare the table at which you will eat, then you should not eat ever again. You are not a benefit or an asset to the people. You are a leech and a parasite. The rebels in Syria don't need folks in Chicago waving flags and waving banners. That's not what they need. What they need are boots on the ground. What they need are resources. That's what they need. But they do not need you sitting there in Chicago talking about let us know when the shooting's done. And if these folks are allowed to go back over there, which by the way, I'm thinking is a great idea, by the way. But if they are allowed to go back over there, tell me, what mentality are they going to bring with them? What attitude are they going to bring with them? What is their definition of loving Syria? If you're going to tell me that you only love Syria if you don't have to sacrifice for it, if you don't have to suffer, if you don't have to bleed, you only love Syria when it's beautiful and pleasant. But if there's ever any sacrifice or struggle or hardship, wait a minute now. I need to love Syria from a distance, though. Really? They love Syria. They just want to love Syria from a distance. They want to love Syria from a distance. It's a powerful lesson to be learned there. Powerful lesson to be learned. I'm very glad that we have something there. I think that's a interesting anecdote there to have. Somebody has made a comment, and I think it's necessary to have a little talk about that here as well. So, why not go ahead and do that? In the chat room, somebody just made an interesting comment there. So I think this would be a great opportunity for us to discuss that. I think that'd be a great opportunity for us to discuss that. So, why don't you go ahead and do that for us here? I'm going to go ahead and throw the Zoom link up here. And in the chat room there, Dozen, I want you to go ahead and give us a call up on Zoom. Let me go ahead and toss that link in there to you. I think that's a very interesting observation. Very interesting observation. And in these perilous times, I think that that's the kind of thing that we need to discuss there. All right, I've gone ahead and pinned that to the Zoom link there. So, Dozen, I need you to go ahead and give us a call there. Like to have a little bit of a discussion about that. Because it is important. It is important that we keep these things in their historical context. A lot of folks try to sneak through with things, but yes, it is absolutely of importance and critical that we do keep these things in their proper historical context. First thing that some folks might want to do is muddy the waters, cloud the waters and muddy the waters a little bit there. That can happen. So I'm glad we have an opportunity to take a look at that. You have folks out there who are in the streets in Chicago, and this is one of the things that concerns us. It's one of the things that concerns us. It concerns us because we have to be cognizant of the attitudes and the mentality of the people we have around us. And this goes for you and me and everything else. We have to be aware of the attitudes of the folk we have around us. Because you can get took in and you can get deceived and you can start believing things and you can just start making assumptions about the quality and caliber of people we have. And that can be problematic. Let me go ahead and see. I think I got Dozen here on Zoom. I think I do. Let me go ahead and see if we can get that there. Dozen, do me a favor, Dozen. I just need you to turn the camera on. Don't worry. Nobody else will see you except for me. I'm the only one who'll see you. Just to make sure I don't have any trolling issues. That's rather important for me. All right, Dozen, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Why are you looking like MC Light? All right, Dozen. Well, you made a very interesting comment there, and this one that I had seen already. I figured I'd take a moment to elaborate on that. Can you go ahead and explain what you meant by that?
Well, I just feel like that's the European way. When the going gets tough, they flee to other lands and take over. That's what they do.
Syrians are not exactly Europeans, not exactly, but
they look an awful lot like them.
Well, we all know that's the standard, so of course we.
I mean, if it got fur on its head, it's European to me, so you know.
All right, keep that in mind. Okay, well, here's the thing. The thing you just said there, there's a very, very important component. The Europeans went around the world, but for example, with Columbus, they were going for conquest. They weren't going to go hang out or vacation, fleeing religious persecution. I think we debunked that decades ago. We certainly debunked that decades ago. When they left, they were going specifically to expand Europe. They were not going to separate from it. They were going for the purposes of expanding it.
Okay.
And that's a very, very super important point to keep in there. They didn't just go from one place to another for no reason. Remember the first places that they started showing up in. They wanted to go around the Horn of Africa for a reason. So that's an important point to keep in mind, because when you have folks who flee from war zones because they don't want to fight, the Europeans, by what you just said, the Europeans showed up and first thing they wanted to do was rumble. That was the first thing they wanted to do. They didn't come over here to make peace. They came over here and said, okay, let's start the chaos. The other folks are coming over and saying they don't want no trouble. They're just looking for a peaceful death. I make this point for one critical reason. You cannot fix a problem if you will not face a problem. And Dr. John Henry Clarke called it the evil genius of Europe. We have to be honest about what actually has happened and what they actually did and how things actually occurred. Otherwise, you think you know how to fight them, but you don't. If we come up with the idea that they're all just the same or did the same thing, it's like, no, that's not what's going on. Those folks came over here with their guns, with their cannons, and said, we take this land for Spain. We take this land for France, the Caribbean and everything else. We put our feet here. We take this for our nation. This is what we're doing. Not we're hiding out from a war zone. Critical difference. Critical difference.
I see your point. I stand corrected. I just see them all as the same against us. So,
Now that
with them.
Now that part of it is a key part to keep in mind. Because of course when it all comes down to nutcracking time, we all know where everybody's squads up at. We certainly understand that. I make this clarification just so we can all be clear that be aware, we can say that, but Anglo society does not see everybody the same. They don't see the Syrians as being like us. They don't see the Afghans as being like us. They actually delineate themselves for those reasons, which is a thing that we've started picking up on the last decade. They make clear distinctions. I think when the Afghans were being brought over here a couple years ago, Tucker Carlson, I played the clip of him saying that, that he recognizes that the Afghans are basically white people. And he's like, but we don't want them over here either. So, like I say, these folks are going to make very, very, very short work of the idea that, flat whiteness, genealogy, genetics, DNA. They're like, yeah, we're not signing up for that. We're not signing up for that. So keep that in mind. But your statement about how they respond to us, absolutely accurate. Absolutely. But I want you all to remember, there are those who are on a war footing and those who are not. The Syrians are never going to be accepted by Anglo society because too many of them ran. That's the problem. It would be different if the Syrians had come to America to conquer. Well, that would have been different. White Anglo society could have respected them. Didn't say they like it, but they would have respected them. Instead, they came over as a result of fleeing from a civil war. Anglos see that as weakness.
May I ask a question?
You can ask a couple of questions. You look like you sing R&B singles.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So listen, do you not agree that the whatever Syrians, whatever you want to call those folks, no disrespect, but disrespectfully, I would say whatever neighborhoods they are in, I think they kind of are conquering it. Do you not agree?
Well, they're certainly populating it. That's absolutely for certain. They're populating it. Here's the issue.
They're not doing it with guns and weapons, but they're doing it in a different kind of, it's almost like,
well, here's the issue.
It's almost like warfare without weapons.
You're describing populating an area. But if you take a look at what's actually occurring, they come over here, they populate, they are allowed, helped to open businesses. And the whole point that I was making here is take a look at how quickly they've assimilated. Mm-hmm. Take a look at how their girls have assimilated here. She's talking garbage in Chicago. She's not talking it in Syria. They got them out. That's why I showed them they had some girls out there wearing bandanas on their heads. I had a shot of whoever before doing that. And what I'm saying is that shows you they're assimilating. They're not here's the real point. The only real point is, are they challenging white supremacy? No. No. They simply will simply want a safe cubby in the society. They are not challenging it, which is why it's so easy to find so many East Indians, the Dinesh D'Souza's, the Cash Patels, the Vivek Ramaswamy's. It's very easy to find these folks in those areas, a few Arabs in there and whatnot who roll with Trump and MAGA like it ain't nothing. They're not challenging it. How is it that they link up with it and assimilate into it so easily? Because they're not a threat to it. So
because they're European at heart.
Well, there's Europe. There are people who are European, and then there are those who are assimilationists. And that's the real thing to look out for. That's why we say white supremacy is a religion. But then you've got those who they're not challenging it, because the bottom line is not whether or not you are rah-rah for white supremacy or indifferent. You're either fighting it or you're not. That's what it is. If you're not opposing it, you're helping it by definition. And these other folks are okay with allowing it. Now, it's only if something happens where they get specifically targeted, then they'll take offense at it. But otherwise, they're not actually actively opposing it. Even when they see it, just like you and me, they're not actually actively opposing it. So I would suggest that they're populating these areas, they're contributing to the tax bases, they're being very helpful. What they're not doing is the only thing that would make them problematic, challenging the status quo. Show me one neighborhood of Arabs, Syrians, Somalians. Show me one place where they're challenging the status quo. In whatever numbers you want. I don't care if it's a small neighborhood or a large one. Detroit, Dearborn. Show me where they're actually challenging the status quo.
They're not.
So the white society has no problem with them being there because they're not posing a threat. And if all of us were like Tim Scott, then we get along a lot easier with them too. They would be perfectly fine if all of us were ass kissers like Tim Scott, and if we just took their abuse and their harassment and made jokes out of it and smiled, they would be talking about us the way they do about their, quote, model minorities. The problem is we don't do that. They start that with us and they get clapped back on. That's why they're like, oh, y'all niggas is troublesome. You're problematic. What do we? And that's why all their think tanks and all their political parties are constantly asking, okay, what are we going to do about these niggas? They don't do that with these other people because the other folk, they take it. They take it and they're just like, okay, they go back to picking the cotton and want to, okay, let me just figure out how to make it okay for myself. So, and the other thing is they also limit the numbers. Now that's another thing. Remember, a bunch of these are refugees. Well, then most refugees end up getting deported and sent back. So there's only a certain number that are allowed to stay. So the numbers that you see, even to the extent you do, are strictly controlled. So there's the other thing that folks don't think about. The government knows how many of them are over here because they let them stay. So they know who they are. They know where they are because they let them in. But they're also telling a bunch of other folks, okay, we've hit our quota. Y'all got to stay over there in Syria and fight. Yeah, we let over all the refugees where we hit our quota. The rest of you got to stand 10 toes down and fight. And that's what you're actually seeing. And it's not just for them, it's the Afghans, it's for whatever you name. There's only a certain number of, quote, refugees that they allow in. And then the rest of you got to get it how you live. I
mean, but that statement in itself is maybe not so accurate, being those that the Biden administration just let in how many million? Okay, refugees.
And so it depends on where you're going there, but here's the thing. Remember, they didn't just come out of nowhere. They get stopped at the border And what they were doing was basically catch and release. They got their information, fingerprinted them, and gave them a court date. The whole point that Trump and them made is that we know who they are because they were caught at the border and then released. Now, remember, in most cases, however, though, that's what we talk about the Haitians down there in Del Rio, Texas. Most of them got turned back around. They got over here and then got rejected and turned back around. Only certain numbers were allowed to be let go. In this case here, they let millions of them out there. And then take a look at what happened here in the last year. In the last year, all of a sudden they started turning the spigot off. So the bottom line is, when they're let over, is because it's not a uncontrolled, chaotic situation. It just looks that way. In reality, you watch the news and stuff and you think it's like World War Z where the zombies are overrunning the Israelis. And it's not like that. That's not what it is at all. It's like having a very large rock concert where everybody's leaving the arena and you're putting a ring around everybody's wrist on their way out. That's what they're doing. So basically you're telling them, okay, we're going to give you a court date and you need to show up at the immigration office when it's time for your court date. And of course, what happens is they don't show up is what occurs. But they are allowed. And in this case, it was millions of them were allowed right up until it was no longer feasible or permissible. Then it's like, okay, that's enough. We hit our quota, bye. And then the rest of them are being turned around. Remember, those 2 caravans that were coming up through Mexico, then they already broke them up. They already broke them up. Now, Biden is still president, remember?
Correct.
Yikes. And yet they've already broken those up. Well, what do you know? So that
I just see other groups. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just see other groups as tag teams of white supremacy, like someone tagging another person into the wrestling match. And so, Syrians, Afghans.
Well, this is why we call them buffer classes.
Ethnic group. I just feel like they tag teaming in, like they joining in on how to oppress the Negro.
Right. This is why we call them buffer classes. They're a buffer class that is specifically meant to be a buffer against us. So they're being leveraged against us. Absolutely. My only thing is, I just want to make sure we're clear about the psychology behind it. White supremacy is a cowardly religion. Absolutely. I just did a whole program about that last night. It is a cowardly religion. Absolutely. But we would be doing ourselves a tremendous deception if we told ourselves that Cristobal Colon and De Sal and Eric the Red and the Vikings and whoever else you want to name that came on a ship out of that part of the world, if we told ourselves that, well, don't worry, they're all the same and they're all cowardly and this, that, and the other, and they're running and fleeing, we would be doing ourselves an outrageous deception to tell ourselves that's what we're about to go up against, because it isn't. There's a reason why you have so many middle class and upper middle class white males who join the military. Now, while their numbers still don't approach ours, people with supposedly so many different options, and yet that's something they've chosen to do. We do ourselves a tremendous disservice if we distort that reality, because what you're doing then is ignoring what their motives are, even if they're not very good at it. Just recognize that they have a warrior class of their own. Theirs is built on conquest, not defense. Ours is built on defense. Theirs is built on conquest. But it's very much real and it's very much there. And that was their reason for coming. The Europeans' reason for coming over here was conquest. God, gold, guns, and glory.
I mean, it's not funny, but you so right. I do agree. And so thank you for the correction. And it's not beyond me to know that they come speaking smooth words with war in their heart. I know that. I don't trust none of them. So it don't matter what they say. I always think, they up to no good. Well, that's just how I'm going to look at it.
Trust nothing. I want you to understand everything. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. I'm so glad to have I want to take a moment there to address that because that's very, very important. I want folks to understand that. I don't want you to sit up here and tell yourself, don't worry, they all the same, and then damn me, Brock Lesnar come walking around the damn corner. Damn! That's the thing I want to make sure we're clear about, is that we have a objective understanding of who we're looking at and what we're dealing with and what it really is. And I don't want a caricature of it. I want you to be prepared. I don't want you to be scared. I don't want you to be silly. I don't want you to be running for your life. I just want you to be aware. It's like, okay, this is what the situation really is, so that you're prepared. But I can't prepare you for something that doesn't actually exist. I can prepare you for something that does. Can't prepare you for something that doesn't actually exist. And don't worry, once you find out what does exist, you're going to be all right too. Believe me, we always excel, especially when we're prepared. Forget Batman. You give us just about a couple weeks of prep time, we outdoing everybody. But once I give you proper information, now you can prep. That's important. Got a few other points I want to touch on here as well, but I think I want to go ahead and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break before I do. However, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to the nice program. PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo, my man Black Views FBA.
I told you all that I was the greatest of all time. I told you today I'm still the greatest of all time.
Thank you very much for your support tonight. We appreciate that. My man Bayou Billy has been giving out some memberships. I appreciate that also. My man Mr. Richberg. Special shout out to Sabrina and Mr. Okimbe. Thank you all very much for your support as well. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back here, I want to take some more of your calls, and I want to address a few other things. So let me go ahead and do this real quick, and we'll hit you all right back. This is the Black Channel.
Is your child struggling in school? Wish there was a way to get them the extra help they need? Mr. B, the teacher, is available for online tutoring on both tutor.com and varsitytutors.com platforms. He can help your child in a variety of subjects and is passionate about making learning fun and effective. And for even more learning tips, check out his book, Guidelines for the Successful Student, now available on Amazon.com. For more information or to reach him directly, go to MrBTheTeacher.com today.
The Honey Badger and the Mongoose is a children's story for the family of how a honey badger and mongoose fight an evil alliance of venomous cobra snake and hyenas that overhauls the balance of the savannah. The Big Five. The honey badger demands reparations. Will the Big Five give reparations? Can the evil alliance be stopped? You can find this book at Amazon, Audible, and Kindle.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slavery and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. Let me go ahead and touch on this really, really quickly here because, like I say, we have a subject to discuss tonight. Don't want to get sidetracked or anything. Well, first of all, did I call it or did I call it? Kamala Harris loses the election. Next thing you know, AJZ, hold this lawsuit. Damn. So I don't want to get way off into that, but by the way, yeah, did I call it? Did I call it? I talked about this before the election, during the election, after the election. I'm like, yeah, no wonder Beyonce jumped out there. I don't want to get real deep off into that because this is all just breaking news. It takes time to look these things over. It takes time. You all know me. I'm never the guy who jumps on something the very first day it comes out because you don't have enough information. I want to be the guy who's right, not the guy who's first. A bunch of other folks jump out there and they're first, but they're not right. I want to be the guy who's right. So there's more looking into this I want to do. I'm never the guy who tries to jump out there and be on the cutting edge. Ooh, let me tell you about what happened first. Let's find out all the details first. Let's find out what's really going on and then make some decisions about it. However, I did tell you all that, yeah, why would Beyonce get involved in this? Is this, somebody fly a kite? If we in the White House, we can keep it safe for you. But if we're not there, ain't no telling what could happen. So you better show up and bring that 42-year-old BBL on out here so we can. You never know when something could happen. So, yeah, hey, folks, look. Ain't nobody safe. Ain't nobody safe. I don't know how this is going to go down with the NFL. Jay-Z been flexing. I'm with the NFL. And his management company. I don't know how is this going to go down with these entities he's mobbed up with. We'll see. But I'm just saying, you know how this goes. If one comes out, next thing you know, another one shows up. Now, I didn't say that their claims are valid. I'm not saying anything. I'm like, I haven't even researched it to check into it. But if you want to know my first cursory evaluation of it, first of all, did I call it or did I call it? And then second of all, it's like, how is this going to affect things? What was everybody saying? He was real quiet when Diddy got arrested. It's like, how does this affect things? I would just recommend it. Anybody out there who wants to make hay out of it, you better be careful. There's an ambulance chaser in your future. So, in any case, yes, I'm aware. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how we'll follow this story as it develops. Let me go ahead and see if we can jump back over here on Zoom. And see if I can go ahead and get Dan up here on Zoom so we can get back to what we were discussing here. Like I said, I want to get off in the woods on a bunch of things right here, right now tonight. There'll be plenty of time to discuss this when there's some actual real developments and some real details come in and details about whoever the accuser might be or whatever. It'll come later. So right now, you got the basics. All right, Dan, where are you? There you go. All right, Dan, what's on your mind?
I'm here. You get. I want to touch on the top of the day. I think you make up some excellent point because I kind of been thinking about that for quite some times, but particularly those Syrians that you brought up in the video, most of those Syrians and most of those illegal immigrants, because let's be clear, it's always been a bunch of illegal immigrants running around here. It was just in the last few years they've become so bold with it that you just can't ignore it because they was really tucked off in a certain area. So a lot of those Syrians and all these other immigrants and all these other different groups, most of them is like towards the north side and towards north suburbs when they tuck what is supposed to be the high end neighborhood, but that's a whole nother different story. But another thing I want to say too, I think a lot of businesses need to be punished for that. Not even just the people who traffic in them or not just the illegal immigrants. I think the businesses who's hiring them, I think they should be punished too. to be paying them on the table. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, look, there are levels to this. I want to deal with the Syrian part of it here first, because a lot of folks don't understand why the United States government would do things like this and whatnot. And you're just like, okay, this stuff is crazy. Not as crazy as you think. Remember back in Iraq, Hamid Karzai and a bunch of other people there. These were folks who had been, they had been in Britain, they had been to America, they had been in English, they'd been raised in English-speaking countries, or at least schooled, went to university in English-speaking countries. So they had picked up a lot of Western ways about them. And then they were sent back where they came from. Now you have these Syrians over here and whatnot. Yeah, they've been inculcated and indoctrinated and westernized. What do you know? Talk about Manchurian Candidate. All you got to do, you don't have to send back thousands of them. You just need to send back a dozen. You're going to send back a dozen? You take a look at them females after they've been to Chicago? Dude, they're going to be demanding to drive. When they get back over there, when seriously, no, women need to drive cars. They're going to be challenging religious orthodoxy. They're going to be wanting to be wearing skin-tight jeans and everything else. They are not going to want to be traditional Syrian women. They are going to want to be quote Syrian women ethnically, but they culturally, they will not want to be typical traditional Syrian women. They want to be American Syrian women. And that's the way the game is played here. They did it in Iran, they did it in Iraq, they've done it in Saudi Arabia, they're doing it in Oman, and Syria, now is your turn.
Yeah, because hell, if you go to if you look like in some of these areas in the city, that, well, of course, all they women, when they come over here, oh boy, that's a whole different topic. I'm not even going to address that, but I think all of them need to go back. Matter of fact, not with just the Syrians, the Afghanistanians over here, they need to go back. Send the Mexican speaking people that's in Little Village by the county jail, that be on that anti-black racism shit. You know what I'm saying? Especially on the street level, send their ass back. I think all of them fight for their homeland, but they're gonna sit over here. They're gonna using them to strengthen their numbers up. But the problem is, once they get over here, West culture, they become rebellious. No, so.
Well, like they're gonna keep them over here and stuff. Some of them are gonna come.
It's real, but
a lot of them are gonna become lawyers. They're gonna get into government. They're gonna get government jobs. Okay, your phone's breaking up on you, but thank you for giving us a call. A lot of them are going to become lawyers. They're going to get government jobs. They're going to go to work for the Department, of Justice. Just think about that for a few moments, folks. They're going to go to university. They're going to go to, they're going to go to Harvard. They're going to go to Yale. They're going to go to UCLA. They're going to get their PhD in liberal arts and feminism and social studies. And then they're going to send them back over there. They're going to do that, and then they're going to send them back over there. And when they do, a poison pill strategy, because these would be people, they look like their homeland. In many cases, they know how to talk the language. They know some of the cultural mores. Yeah, they know them, but they haven't accepted them. And they'll be back over there to create a new Syria that looks like America and not like the place they're actually from. So please understand, this is the same playbook they've been using for decades now. There's a reason why these former war zones, next thing you know, McDonald's coming near you. And just keep that in mind. Understand, folks, Hilton, I don't know if they have a Hilton hotel in Syria, but before it's over, they will. Let me go ahead and see if we can get Mr. Coleman up here on Zoom. All right, Mr. Coleman, there you go, sir. Unmute yourself. Mr. Coleman, I'll give you 5 seconds here. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, he's having trouble with this newfangled technology. All right, Mr. Coleman, I can give you another couple of seconds to try that, sir, and then we got to move on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, sir. What's on your mind?
Oh, not much, man. I just really wanted to call and give you your flowers, man. I appreciate your content. I'm always tuned in and listening to your words of knowledge, man, and very appreciative of your work, man. I just wanted to give you your flowers, brother.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Please check in again. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Scott here on Zoom. Let me go ahead and see if we can get Scott up here. Okay, Scott is working on his Zimbabwe broadband. See if we can get Scott for that. Okay, Scott, I need you to go ahead and make sure you have your camera and microphone turned on for me here. Don't worry, I'm the only person who can see anything here, but I do need to make sure we have that taken care of so we don't have any trolling issues. I can give you 5 more seconds for that, and then we got to move on. So, Scott, I can give you 5 more seconds. Go ahead and take care of that, folks. They already know the drill. Okay, Scott, 2 more seconds, and then we got to move on, sir. Okay, so Scott has been abducted. Let's go ahead and see if we can go ahead and get Onan. Let me go ahead and see if we can get Onan up here next on Zoom. We'll see how that works out here. Where is Onan at? Okay, and make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on for me here, Onan. Make sure we have that taken care of for us here. All right, Onan, what's on your mind, brother?
Okay, so I have a question. Do you believe that the Republican Party will see gains amongst foundational Black Americans in specific within 2026 and 2028 elections?
Not really.
Due to...
Not really. The stuff I've been saying here for the last couple of weeks, you know, they are deluding themselves into thinking that basically the same thing as the Democrats. We're going to get Black voters while giving them nothing. And so whatever it is that we want, we just need to become better messengers of convincing them that we already have what they want, which of course, you know, is absolute garbage. You do not have what we want. You might have some things that are less troublesome than others where Democrats are concerned, but that's a two-way street. There's always something less troublesome. No, you have not actually offered us anything. And they are being willfully deceptive to themselves by telling themselves that we're voting for Trump. No, these were votes against Kamala Harris and against the Democrats. But of course, they're living on hopium and telling themselves whatever lie they want to believe because they want to believe it, because they want to believe that they're not going to have to do anything else. That it's like, well, they just see the Democrats are just so bad now, and they just see that we were always the good guys. And that's not the case. All I'm going to say is that Trump only won, you know, a little bit better than he did previously, but this is not everybody loves you. He doesn't remember 4 years ago you got voted out. It's not like the numbers are gigantically different. So give him another year or two, and people will remember why they didn't like him. And if that sounds familiar to what I said about Kamala Harris, well, yeah, give it another year or two, and he's going to remind people why they didn't like him.
Well, to interject, I do think that he has made significant gains amongst African American men.
Well, yes, I mean, for a party who usually gets 0, to get 1 is a significant gain. So, yeah, right. I suppose technically speaking, what you're saying is technically accurate. Yeah,
true. And then it speaks to what I believe to be a psychological shift among Black men specifically in how they view the Democratic Party and how they view power specifically, right? It's important to understand that power, by definition, is exclusive, right? So you look for a party that promotes keeping power exclusive to their community. And I think that the Republican Party represents that much better than the Democratic Party.
But there's the problem. Trump is not the Republican Party. So there's another reason why anybody who would think that this is going to translate into support for Republicans has missed the whole thing. Trump himself ran against the Republican Party. So by definition, there's the reason why you could be voting for Trump and not support the Republican Party, because this man was literally running against it. So he's basically the counterpart to Bernie Sanders, not the counterpart to Joe Biden. He's actually the outsider on the right wing, the way that Bernie Sanders is the outsider on the left wing. But no, support for Trump does not mean you now support Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy and the rest of those folks. That's not what it means.
This is true. This is true. I don't think it's a complete ideological shift.
Nobody who was voting for Trump was sitting up here saying, I love J.D. Vance.
And this is true. Again, I'm not saying that it's a complete ideological shift when it comes to political parties, right?
Well, no, what I'm answering is your question about when you said 2026. Trump is not going to be running in 2026. Now only Republicans will be running in 2026. And I don't see them getting any more black vote.
Do you think a Trump-type opponent or a Trump-type politician will run? Or do you think that his legacy will carry on in 2026 and 2028?
I mean, there won't be any national races in 2026. Your national race was 2024. So in 2026, you'll have some House and Senate. You'll have those. But will you have any Trump candidates like that? I suppose
Trump-aligned candidates or Trump-like candidates.
I mean, you always have somebody who's going to try to ride his coattails. Sure. The real thing is, will they get more black traction simply because they are Trump aligned? And I think that this year has shown that there weren't really any candidates. Tell me anybody, Republicans were running all over the place. Show me any of them who got any more black support other than Trump. Any of them.
You do make a good point.
There isn't anybody significant who got anything more than they previously got.
This is true. I do not know specifically any other Republican who got any significant support amongst FBA Black Americans in specific.
And that's what 2026 will look like. If they don't bring us, we knew Trump, and then we knew Kamala Harris. So when it's a national election, that affects everybody. You're talking about Texas, New Mexico, Vermont. That affects people in Texas and New Mexico and Vermont. Somebody living in Georgia is not concerned about what's happening in the Senate race in Vermont. So that's why it won't translate the same way. And it's not like you're following any of them. So you're following the politicians where you at. The only one you're following nationally is Biden or Trump. That's the only one you were. Now that one's been settled, you don't even know who anybody else is. So at this point here in 2026, there will be people who will be running. But if there's anybody who thinks that they're going to get more black vote, if you think that you're a Republican in Georgia who is going to get more black voters because you're MAGA, you're silly.
Okay.
Because that is literally not what happened. What happened was the black vote went down. There were fewer black people who voted this time. And of the fewer who voted, they were voting anything but Democrat. You had a larger percentage than normal that decided to vote anything but Democrat. That's what happened.
Right.
It's not like you had more. It's not like you had more black people than normal vote. You had fewer than normal vote, and of the fewer than normal who voted, a higher percentage voted other than Democrats. So the ones who did not come to vote, that was a protest vote. They're not voting Democrat. They're like, I'm not going to vote Democrat or Republican. That's what, and you're going to see. I think you're going to see something similar in 2026.
All right. Brother Jason, one more point and then I'll land. Black women specifically are the only demographic that have the closest ideological ties to the Democratic Party, voting at 92% for Kamala Harris, understanding that she is a woman of color. Do you see any significant ideological shift within Black women coming over to either the Republican Party or just breaking away from the Democrats in specific?
Yeah, like I said before, Black men are a leading indicator. Black women are a lagging indicator. You take a look at the numbers of Black men and women who voted from, that's why Roland Martin pointed it out. That's why I played it, because I'm like, folks, okay, if Jason Black could be lying to you, but then again, explain to me why Roland is repeating everything I said. You take a look at Black men and women's voters numbers, the numbers of people who showed up, and the percentage who voted for Barack Obama in 2008, and then came back in 2012. And when you watch that graph, when you watch that trend line from Obama 2012 to Hillary Clinton to Joe Biden to this year, you see a number that has consistently moved down. For the men, it's moved down faster than the women, but it's moved for the women also. It's just moved more slowly. So what this tells you is the men are a leading indicator, which we will always be. We're the warrior class. We're the adventurers. We're the ones who blaze the trails. And we're the ones who make it safe for everybody else to follow us. Now that we've made it safer to follow us, you will see more, which is what I've always said. So look for the Black female vote to gradually continue to erode away.
Right. Hey, God bless you, Jason. B1.
Thank you very much for giving us a call, 9. Like I say, it's not going to be tremendous in that regard, but then again, it never was. It's the real thing, though, is that over time, death by 1,000 cuts, you lose a percentage every election. That might make you feel better than losing 5% every election, but you're still losing. A stay of execution is still a date of execution. Y'all take a look on your screens here right quick. By the way, just want to go ahead and show you this right here. Oh, take a look at this. Oh, look over there. I think they were at Notre Dame. And, well, what do I see? Do my Humpty eyes deceive me? No, I don't think they do. Well, what do you know? There is Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, sitting right next to Jill Biden. Damn! And by the way, hey, Jill, where's Joe?
Auntie Jill!
Where's Joe? So yeah, y'all, there's Jill Biden chumming it up with Donald Trump. Now, I showed you all this before. I don't know why people don't want to ever take this seriously. For the folks out there, the slow ADHD kids who you treat politics, you're just kind of dumb and slow and dense, and you treat politics like a football game and rah rah for my team, and I'm gonna stand 10 toes down for my team, and y'all is all Trump people, and Joe Biden is the second coming, and you love me some Joe Biden, and Trump is a criminal. All you Whoopi Goldberg jackasses out there and whatnot. Trump is the devil. Trump is awful. Joe Biden need to lock him up. Joe Biden need to lock him up. Oh, wait a minute. By the way, hey, here's Joe Biden. What? Oh, yeah, by the way. Yeah, just a brief reminder here, just to go ahead and show you one more time. Oh, take a look on your screens there. Oh, well, yeah, this was Joe Biden right after the election, November 13th. Right after the election, there's Joe Biden. Yeah, there he is. And what do you know? Less than a month later, there's his wife. People. Jason, you ain't getting all excited and angry and upset, and why ain't you mad? And y'all. Those of us who live this and know this, we're not excited. We're not easily agitated. We're not bouncing off the walls. The folks who are sitting up here fighting for these people harder than they fight for themselves. You're the sheep. You're the lemmings. Those of us who got a lick of sense about us understand, dude, it's a game on their side of the fence. They're jockeying for position. They're not trying to destroy the corporation. They got your silly, stupid ass thinking they do because you would be willing to crash out. But they aren't. The people you sitting up here getting all upset and angry over. Don't you understand how stupid Whoopi Goldberg looks today? There's Jill Biden sitting there yucking it up with Donald Trump, and Whoopi Goldberg is sitting on the damn View. That's why she's been able to keep a place in Hollywood as long as she has, even if it's just tertiary, because she's the honorary Negro ass kisser. But meanwhile, the folks she talking about and trying to cape for, by the way, there they are with Trump, and they look pretty damn friendly to me. That's just for the camera, Jason. Really? Yeah. Some folks here, I'm just saying, look, people, when you're slow, there's a penalty for that. When you're slow, when you're easily led, when you're gullible, when you're easily bamboozled, there is a penalty for that. There really, really is. All right, let's go ahead and get back over here on Zoom. I've got Derek here on Zoom. Derek is working on his audio there. Hopefully this will work out okay. Looks like he's got his audio there. All right, Derek, what's on your mind?
Hello?
Okay, Derek, what's on your mind, sir?
Yes, sir, brother. Can you hear me? Because I'm confused with this a little bit.
Turn off your YouTube, sir. You have your speakers playing. I can hear them.
No, sir. I'm on my laptop.
You have your YouTube still turned on, sir. That's the only way you could be hearing. That's the only way I could be hearing myself. You got YouTube still playing.
I don't know how to do this, but you know what? I just want to give you thanks. Hope you're in good health and spirits. We had a little differences before, and if you can hear me, if you allow me to say what I got to say. Yes, sir, brother. Can you hear me?
Okay, Derek. Well, I don't rightly remember who you were, so if we've had a difference,
no, you don't. But we've had our falling outs. But you know what? I'm a brother FBA man, New Yorker, Harlem born and raised, Vietnam vet. All right, I dig what's happening, what was reported about Daniel Penny and these guys. You can hear me. You want me to say what I got to say.
Nice shirt.
Yeah, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. That's Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, man. I was wearing that shirt when I went down to Tyreek's Juneteenth.
Words to live by. Words to live by. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. Words to live by, especially up there in New York City. Like I say, folks, they cut different. New York is not going for the bull jive like a lot of folks might think. It really, really isn't. But it puts people on notice. They're looking for soft targets. The race war is on. It's emboldened a lot of people when they speak against you openly, the open acts of harming against you that are indefensible. And then people are speaking up for that. What they're saying is they hope you get harmed. The folks defending Daniel Penny are not doing it because they think it's that he's just. They don't. They're what they're really preaching is for the right to harm people, and they hope more people will get harmed. They hope more black folk will. Now the Tim Pools and their cowardly little cockroaches, they would never lift a finger. They would go screaming and squealing like a blonde in a porn film. What? But they're hoping somebody else will do it. Because they damn sure ain't going to do it. All they're going to do is sit on YouTube and wish somebody would do something unique. But it's not going to be them. Not now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, not ever. That's all it's going to be. All it's going to be. All right, let me get back over here on Zoom. See if we can get Daryl up here on Zoom. Daryl, I just need you to turn your camera and your microphone on for me here. Don't worry, nobody else will be able to see you except for me, but I do need to make sure we have that on just so we don't have any trolling issues. We get that taken care of, and then we'll be good. I can give you about 5 seconds to go ahead and take care of that, and then we got to move on. So, Daryl, if you can go ahead and do that for me here real quick, I can give you about 5 more seconds, and then that'll be it. Otherwise, permanent vacation here. So, Daryl, if we can go ahead and take care of that, we can get that done for you. There you go, Daryl. All right, Daryl, what's on your mind?
How you doing, Jason? Thank you for having me on the broadcast as always, man, and excellent broadcast. Jason, here in Chicago, you know what the immigrant situation is here. And I just have to say what I got to say about it. And it's been, you got a lot of those people from Syria here. They're in their section. They don't come mess with us at all. They stay in their section and they leave us alone. And the bottom line is that, you know, like you said earlier in the broadcast, that's not the class of ones that are actually fighting over there. Them the ones that, you know, well, you just give us a call when it's done. And they're cheering over here because of whatever it is going on, but still, we standing 10 toes down on what we're doing over here, and we're gonna keep on doing it.
Well, brother, I have a few reservations about what you just said, and while I understand it, I think there's a problem with that.
Okay.
And let me explain to you what the problem is.
Okay.
You made the statement that, well, those folk, they don't mess with us. They stay over there in their section. And you're most likely probably completely right about that. Absolutely.
Yes.
Here's the problem. The problem is they're still in your city.
Yes, that's true.
The problem is that now they can vote.
That's right.
They can undermine you from the safety and comfort of their little section.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
So I wish I could say, well, they can't be a problem and they're not an issue because they're not sitting in front of your house. Well, no, they're not.
True.
But their presence there isn't accidental, and they're doing it for a reason.
No.
And you know, like I know, you know, typically speaking, it doesn't matter whether they are leftist or right wing or whatever. When they start voting as blocks and start voting as groups, which is what I was saying with Dosen earlier, she and I were, you know, converging on that. When they do start voting in blocks and stuff, they can't agree to be against us, whether they're left wing or right wing. The little Syrian chicks out there with their, you know, booty shorts on and their bandanas will be equally as willing to vote against whatever black folk do, and they're gonna vote against it. The same as the hardliners at the mosque will.
Yes.
So there tends to be the issue where that's concerned.
That's right, and that's one of the things that we're concerned here as well. And you're absolutely correct, Jason. I didn't put the other part in there, and you're absolutely dead on with that. Yeah, they can cause havoc with that. And the thing is that true, we don't want them here, but again, they were put here. And the thing is, that's by design. Yes, you're absolutely correct on everything you just said. Everything. And then some.
Yeah, I mean, because remember, you know, folks don't understand, black people were never supposed to become a, you know, major political and population block in Chicago. That was never supposed to happen, period. That's why whenever my people call in from up there, I always say the same two things, South Side or West Side. South Side or West Side. And remember, I'm from Louisiana, but I've been to Chicago enough times that I know how geography moves, I know how population moves, I know how my people operate. And in Chicago, while the rest of the world talks about South Side because all they listen to is Fox News, I'm like, okay, for those of us who've been there, and I know it's my people's presence is a whole lot bigger than just the South Side.
That's right.
But once you realize that, when you've been through Bronzeville, once you realize that, when you done traveled all the way down Halstead, once you realize that, then you start to notice, oh, no wonder they're bringing so many others over here. And like, you can't have just a few. You're going to need a whole lot to disrupt what we got going on. You need a whole lot to do that. So that's why that resonated with me like that. And that's why I'm glad to see people standing up and saying something now. You know, Mayor Johnson been catching hell all over the damn place because that wasn't supposed to happen neither. Niggas supposed to be doing like they were doing under Lori Lightfoot. But remember, we wouldn't be where we are today with Brandon Johnson if we hadn't been putting the boots and the work to Lori Lightfoot when we did. So that
That's
was
right.
what prepped the ground to make it acceptable, because folks wasn't really clowning Lori like this. I mean, it was towards the end of her tenure that it started. Brandon ain't made it no time. He ain't made it no time. He's in the door catching hell. He's in the door catching fades. That's a whole big difference.
He's been in court, Jason. Excuse me for cutting you off. He's been in court since, I think the ink ain't been dry on his inauguration papers. He's been on court since then.
No, he's going out like Mayor Adams. He going out like Eric Adams. And Eric and Brandon are going out the same way. They're going out the same way. And in Brandon's damn case, I'll be damned, it's not like he's even done enough good work for them to give him some little token position somewhere for undermining us. It's just, he's going to be out on his ass, and that's going to be it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right. He sure is. And it's going to be quicker than sooner than later. Because right now, there's so much heat right now. Even the city council, they all over. It's like,
this is how they're operating now. Just when they put these black politicians in there, they're just going at him in day one. Eric Adams, they were on his ass on day one. I mean, inauguration, indictment. Just from day one. Brandon better make sure he ain't got no issues nowhere, because his indictment is just waiting. Wherever the hell although it's Chicago, if he doesn't get indicted, it'll be a miracle. In his case, it'll be a miracle. This is Chicago. I mean, brother, your city, and I'm from Louisiana. So you want to talk about corruption, but Chicago is the most corrupt, the most happily corrupt place I've ever seen in my life. They proud of it.
That's right. People are proud of that, man. Ain't no joke, boy. They dead serious. Like I said, he's already on the hot seat, and they're they're going to do it. I wouldn't be surprised right after the new year, or at least before the new year, you're going to hear something. I
suspect it's going to be financial.
Yes, it will.
I don't get to monitor these things as much as I want to. Mark my words, when they were pocket watching him remodeling that office for his wife with the first lady of the city and stuff, how they pocket watched him the budget for remodeling that lets you know, dude, they're already going over everything they can find to get you. They're already doing it. They're already saying, is there a way we can make this illegal? They're already doing it.
That's right. Well, they can make anything else illegal. This is going to be one, because they're looking at every little thing. They're looking at it over 2 times and trying to see what they can find. You got that right.
Another 2-3 years to run the gauntlet. That's a long damn time to have to run. That's a long time to be running around out there. I'll let you have the last word.
Well, Jason, again, you hit everything on the head with everything that's going on here right now, and it's getting heated. It's really getting heated. These town hall meetings, everything else, people ain't playing with this. And you know how we are here in Chicago, man. You ain't doing right, we got you out. Simple as that. And if you ain't getting out, we gonna get everything we can do to put somebody in there to get you out. Bottom line, and we'll lawyer up quick too. We ain't got no problem doing that. We'll pull our money together and we'll lawyer up quick. So we ain't got no problems, and ain't got no shame in our game to do it. So we ready. So we gonna keep that going, and we'll keep that heat going, keep that fire going. You lit that thing, Jason. God bless you for doing that. But now we're gonna keep it going. Thank you much.
You've awakened the Kraken. Thank you very much for giving us a call. They've awakened the Kraken in Chicago. Yeah, y'all know I love Chicago. I got love for Chicago. Other cities, you have to sneak your bribes to the politicians. In Chicago, they got like a drop box for bribes. Damn! In Chicago, they make it easy to go ahead and drop your bribes off. It's like everybody got their own little drop box for their bribes. So if you're doing direct business, you can go ahead and cut a check to the city. You need to do your bribes. We got a little drop box over here for you, so you can do that. Just write on the outside of the envelope what the bribe is for. It's confusing. We get so many envelopes up in here. We need to know exactly who. Okay, what you bribe me for again? You need what? Tow truck contract? Okay, what's it again? All right. What's your name? Okay, let me put you on my calendar. Let me go ahead and put you on my calendar here. I gotta make you a 10:30. I already got 7:30 and 8:30 booked, so. I got a trash bribe. I got a parking meter bribe here. So I'm just full today. I can't take care of these damn constituents. What? I can't do nothing for the actual voters. Yeah, we can't take care of the damn voters. I got so much bribe work. I gotta take care of so many of the bribe people. I can't really help the actual voters. So it's just they just got to get by how they gonna get by. Every politician in Chicago needs a separate secretary for their bribes, just so she can organize all that. It's just they tighten up on them. So it'll be interesting to see. Look, I mean, you can only do that for so long. Look, here's the thing. If you're going to be corrupt against the people, you need to make sure that whatever level of corruption that you're doing and stuff, it remains small, it remains light. When you just go freaking hog wild and then people keep running into what you're doing every day, then the next thing you know, you become people's priority. You see, if you really want to run a corrupt regime, you need to be invisible. You need to do a little dirt here, a little dirt there. It'll be a little inconveniencing, but you don't want it to be where people are running into you on a regular basis with your corruption, because next thing you know, when you become disruptive on a daily basis, when they're spending more time dealing with your disruption than they are with the things they want to do, then all of a sudden it makes a whole lot more sense to focus their attention on you. Next thing you know, they're showing up at the city council, they're backing other candidates, they're trying to do recalls, they're calling the local television station, they're doing internet programs, they're buying billboards. That's what starts to happen. When you're so damn corrupt and so dirty and so disruptive, that's what begins to happen. Eventually, you're going to be choking and stifling people so much that they'll have no choice but to start focusing on you and make you the topic of discussion. Eventually, you're going to have to. So that's what you're really seeing in a lot of places right now. Folks are out here and they've been running around and they've been doing their thing and they've been disruptive and they've been grabbing their little bags and grabbing their little envelopes and whatnot, taking their money and selling the people out and voting against people's interests and betraying the people and things. And please understand, politicians are disposable, man. Politicians are disposable. The ones we didn't choose. There is a Gavin Newsom everywhere, man. There's a Brandon Johnson everywhere. There's some flim-flam artist who should be picking up litter at the park, who they can come grab. It's like the record companies do with their record deals nowadays. They don't get talented people anymore. They go grab some damn crackhead stripper from somewhere. Hey, you want a record deal? Why so? Okay, well, you want me to write a song? I don't think you can write your name. We already wrote the song. Okay, let me see. Pound Town. Okay. I go, okay. If you can do that, then we'll be okay. Well, it's the same thing with politicians, man. You get people who should be sitting up here wiping up ice cream off the floor at the mall, and then next thing you know, he's a damn city council person or a mayor. It's not accidental. Kamala Harris, drunk airhead. But then when you realize what she was doing in California all these decades, is there anybody in politics who hasn't seen her naked in California, including the gay ones? What? So, yeah, really? So you shouldn't be surprised. Think about this for a few moments. Joe Biden, this guy is out of his damn mind today. He doesn't remember if he's the president of the United States or the president of Shangri-La. All he remembers, he has a son named Hunter. Now that he does remember. He does remember that part. Although I strongly suspect that somebody had to remind him of that too. So he knows he has a son named Hunter. And let me go ahead and address that right quick. So 3 strikes Joe Biden, who wanted to lock up every nigga in America who had a drug habit or a gun. And lo and behold, the hypocritical bastard, he didn't become hypocritical in 2024. He was a hypocrite in 1984 because he wrote laws that targeted only us. They were executed to target only us. It was always about letting white folk off. So he's been completely consistent. Letting his son off is like, wait a minute, these laws ain't supposed to be. No. These laws are not supposed to be getting no white folk. Certainly not my son. So he's proving what we said the whole time. If you were actually executing these laws evenly and equally, then you would have caught a whole bunch of white folk. Just as soon as they use the laws in a way they're supposed to catch white folk, automatically somebody jumps in and derails it. My point here is when we talk about having $1 million worth of whiteness, that's what we mean. There's no black person in America who has enough money to get that type of privilege. There's no black person, you ain't got enough money to have that kind of privilege. You got crack pipes filling up the whole damn backseat of your car. You got crack pipes. You got so many crack pipes you can't close the damn trunk of your sedan to get them all up in there. You like, let me go buy a gun. I'm writing down whatever the hell I want to. Taxes, schmaxes. Do you see what the hell we talking about? So let me get this straight. He's doing drugs. Yep. He's not paying taxes. Yep. So he's paying for drugs. Yeah. Not paying his taxes. Yeah. And he's got a gun. He lied on the federal form about a gun. Yeah. But you know, the folk don't go to jail for that. Really? I mean, what do you have to do? What do you have to do to get convicted here? I mean, when you start hearing that list get rattled off, it's like, are you serious? So Joe Biden is the guy who wrote all these get tough on crime laws and whatnot, and his son was breaking all of the damn things. And then next thing you know, all of a sudden, the same guy who wrote those laws is telling you that they don't apply. No, they don't apply to them. Folks, what happened to Marion Barry? Damn! Oh, we gonna go there? People, if Marion Barry, if Mayor Marion Barry had a gun, can you imagine what would have happened if Marion Barry had faced the same charges? Remember Kwame Kilpatrick. Kwame Kilpatrick didn't do the serious things that Hunter Biden did. If Marion Barry had a gun, can you imagine how long he would have been in prison? If they, for the same charges under Joe Biden's laws, how long would Marion Barry have been in prison for smoking crack, having a gun that he lied on a form about, and not paying his taxes? Don't y'all know that the cover of Time magazine would have had Marion Barry up there looking like damn me Nikki Barnes? Don't you know that? They would have had Marion Barry up there on the cover of Time magazine. I'm talking about pinstripe gangster suit with the dramatic lighting overhead. It would have looked like that, and I'm not joking. They would have been calling him the kingpin of D.C. They would have had a painting of him with a gun hanging out the window with 3 or 4 prostitutes around him like he pimping hoes. That's what they would have done. They would, good thing they didn't have AI back then, because they would have had the cover would have been him wearing some pimp stripe gangster suit with the pimp hat with the feather sticking out of it, with a gun tucked in his hip, and a gun tucked in his waist, and a bunch of prostitutes around him, and it would have been, the title would have been The Mayor. And you know it. Now, that's what they would have, if that were Marion Barry and not Hunter Biden, that's what it would have been. But we've seen this before. Need I remind you about Kyle Rittenhouse? Remember Kyle Rittenhouse? The Constitution was thrown out. The laws were thrown out. Nobody came back to appeal it. Nobody came back. The Justice Department never showed up. All the laws were disregarded. Because I'm white and I say so is the law of the land. Remember, I already had to tell you about his little buddy. That's a federal offense. That's a federal crime. A straw man gun purchase. People, when's the last time you saw anybody get indicted? Any white person get indicted for a straw man gun purchase? Here's the thing, as black folk, we don't get to do no straw man gun purchases. If you are black and the gun that you have is not legal, oh, that's a wrap right then. You will never make it to the feds. People, if you are black and the gun you have in your possession is not legal, you won't make it to the feds. You will be charged with a felony. And the prosecutor is going to sit up here and tell the judge and the jury that you damn me El Chapo, or that Nicolas Cage in The Lord of War, running guns all over the place. That's what they would say. If you had a gun that you're not legally able to possess, you will be charged with a felony, not on your second offense, on your first one. And it will not be a federal prosecutor that comes after you. Whoever the local penny in the ass kangaroo court DA is you have in your town, that's the one who'll be doing it. You'll never get to federal court. You'll never get that far. They already have a felony hanging on you. That's why I reminded folks about Plaxico. I'm like, by the way, you'll never make it that far. They gonna come get you. Here, hold this felony, hold this prison time. And yet for Joe Biden, it was, well, it's because my son. And so, Plaxico was somewhere talking about, what? Plaxico was somewhere talking about, what? Need I remind you, O.J. Simpson? And folks, remember, if you have having a gun during the commission of a crime is supposed to be enhancement, remember? Having a gun, especially an illegal gun, if Hunter has a gun while he is smoking crack or dealing crack or whatever, he's possessing crack and got a gun, isn't that supposed to be an enhancement? You don't just have drugs, you have drugs and a gun. Isn't that supposed to be an enhancement? And by the way, didn't Joe Biden make that the law? Wasn't he the one who made that fashionable? Oh, I forgot about that. Was Hunter on probation at the time? Yeah, I believe Hunter was. I've forgotten about that. Church of Black Power. Yeah, I mean, probation violation doesn't apply? Okay. I mean, what does he have to do to violate probation, to violate the law? What does he got to do? Here, hand me the crack pipe and the gun. And then he's off doing damn me foreign espionage. He's getting paid off by the Ukrainian government. Really? Okay. No, you don't have anybody you can sit up here and smoke your crack and grab your guns and chase your whores and then call your daddy and, okay, can I go ahead and get out of this? You don't have any of that to call on. But then again, it's not just for Hunter Biden. We showed that with Kyle Rittenhouse and his band of merry men. They got the same damn treatment. They got the same treatment. So once again, if you wanted to stop all these things, there is a way to stop them. But it's not going to stop, because the only way to stop it is you're going to have to start in mass incarcerating the white people who drive these things. When you do that, it's going to dry up. There's nobody to take their place. They are the engines of illegal aliens. They are the engines of the drug trade. They're the engines of all that. That's the only reason they exist. That's the only reason that they're happening. All right, let me go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom. I got Omari over here on Zoom. All right, Omari, what's on your mind?
Hey, Jason, thank you very much for taking my call. I'm surprised I got on so early. I'm sorry, this is somewhat off topic, and I haven't listened to the earlier broadcast. I'm going to listen to the playback, but this is a special request from me. This election, even though I know we made progress as a people, the B1, the number of black folks, black men and black women that still voted for Kamala Harris and the Democrats was very disturbing. And the behavior that I found from a lot of non-B1 black females was especially disturbing. And the fact that they haven't been able to discern the problem with the Democrat liberal agenda, I find is really problematic. And I was wondering if at some point in the near future you could go over the difference in terms of legacy, impact, themes, and consequences of the book 1984 versus the book Brave New World. I think a lot of our people have either they never read Brave New World or they have forgot about it. Whereas they're very familiar with the world of 1984, even just casually, even subconsciously. Like, we get why the nightmare scenario of the Brave New of 1984 was problematic for society, but I don't think people understand the gravity and the implications of Sir Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, which is where I think the Democrat Party has taken us. And if you could just spend some time in the near future just going over those two novels and how they relate to what the black community has been going through.
Here's the thing about that. You can't have a short-term view, because the problem with the internet era, the problem with the television era, is it's conditioned people to believe that we solve all of life's problems either within a 30-minute sitcom or an hour-long drama. And if it's been an hour and we haven't fixed the world, oh damn. Give you a case in point. Your television shows dealing with the law. Oh, those are the absolute worst as far as distorting and corrupting what to expect from those processes. Give you a case in point. One of my favorite TV shows was Suits, back when that was on the air, on USA. Deceptive as hell. Unrealistic as hell. They had one episode, I think, where one guy got wrongfully incarcerated, and we all know if you get wrongfully incarcerated, that's going to be years to undo something like that. Years, if not decades. Of course, they had it done within an episode or two. Because, of course. So, I mean, it's literally like less than a year. And show-wise, it wasn't even that long, to be totally honest. That's not the way that works. You watch an episode of Law and Order, from the time that a crime is committed to the time that someone is sentenced for it, especially for murder, that's going to be at least 2 years. At least 2 years. That is not at all the way it works on television. You start off that show, somebody gets killed. By the end of it, somebody gets sentenced. 60 minutes. And what I'm saying is that conditions you to expect that's the way things work. Even in the court system where that's not the way it works. That is not at all the way that happens. So it's conditioned people to really expedite things that move very, very slowly. Now you're out here in the real world and it's like, damn, why is it taking so long? Because this is how long it takes in the real world. When you vote for somebody for president, good, bad, or otherwise, you have committed to this decision for 4 years. When you vote for somebody for House of Representatives, you've committed to that for 2 years. For Senate, 6 years. That's what that means. I'm talking about, so over the course of, for 2 of those positions, Senate or President, that's going to take up half a decade or more. That's the consequence of that occurring. So we can't dismiss that. So what this means is that your gauge of progress and how you measure it can't be measured over the course of one night, an election night, or one election cycle. You have to take a look at the broad range of it. In my instance, I'm taking a look from the 1960s to now. And it's kind of It's kind of been a roller coaster thing. Goes up, it went down. Now it's going back up again. In the 60s, we remade the society in so many different ways. Dr. John Henry Clark talked about that, how he said black folk in the 1960s, we had America in a position where they would have given us anything that we wanted. And we settled for integration. Now you have something different going on. We're out in the streets. We're making noise. We are rejecting orthodoxy. We're not afraid to slay some sacred cows. And there's another thing here. Up until the last decade, specifically the last 5 years, our fate has been controlled by the civil rights generation. The civil rights generation is what you're complaining about. Need I remind you, they got everything that they wanted. They wanted integration, interracial sexual access, and consumerism. The things that they felt that white people had that they had been denied.
The Brave New World. Yeah.
They wanted, those are the things they felt that white folk had that they had been denied. And it's like, if I can get that, finally I've arrived. Well, that was all they wanted. We as the children and the grandchildren, that's not what we want. We want a whole lot more. And that's why you've had, unfortunately, we don't have the ability to tell all the old folk out there, okay, let me get your voter registration card right quick. So you can't cause any more havoc. They have the ability to keep going. That's the bad news. The good news is there's fewer of them year after year. Not presidential cycle after presidential cycle, year after year. That's why this last election went the way it did, because the civil rights generation no longer has the numbers, the influence, or the sway that they did previously. So now you're starting to see the movement go back in the other direction. Your job is to recognize when the tsunami is a wave. If you can't recognize change until it's a tsunami, you're not going to be very useful. You need to recognize when the waves have changed. Now, for those of you who are familiar with how tsunamis work, if you're standing on the beach, you know,
the pullback.
They tell you the tsunami when it rips out. And it goes out, the tide recedes.
The waves recede. They
recede first, and it's like that was your only warning.
Better run.
If you're looking at the horizon, you won't be able to see a difference. All you know is, well, the water is pulled back. Yeah, that's because the horizon is way wider than your scope of vision. But everyone knows, to be totally honest, if the water is already receded, it's probably too late for you to run. It's probably already too late. However, maybe you'll get lucky and it's not too late. But if you see it go out, you need to run right now, not tomorrow, not in an hour. You need to get the hell up and get out of there right this minute. But you have to be able to recognize that. I'm not saying this based on one metric or one data point. I'm saying this based on the fact that I've been behind this microphone now going on 2 decades. I'm saying this based on the fact that I saw the reception that Barack Obama had in 2008, and I know why he had it. I also know what the reception was in 2012 and in 2015 when he was leaving office. He was a far weakened individual, but the civil rights generation was still playing along because it was in their interest to do so. However, by this point, it was already bad, and Hillary Clinton's loss was the last receipts on Barack Obama's presidency. He was scared and worried then. 2020 shows up. It's not that Joe Biden won, Donald Trump lost. He had 4 years and his mania got the better of him. 4 years later, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden screw up everything that they had. Now you're watching for something different. This was a lack of support for the Democrat Party that had been building over the course of 12 years.
Yeah.
It didn't just show up in one night. Then you're taking a look at other things. Barack Obama has no sway, no influence. He's showing up. People are doing something in 2024 that they had not done in 2008 or 2012, openly speaking against him. He comes and wags his finger at black men. Remember, while he was president, the media tried to play it off as if black men like when he wagged his finger at them. This time that went over terribly, and even they had to say, was it a bad idea for him to do that? They couldn't even play like that was okay. Sir, that is a radical shift from what you saw previously. Radical shift. This is 180 degrees in the other direction. And it wasn't a white media or a white leader that made us do that. This came from the soil. So what this tells you is that I don't care where in America you live as a black person, we all had a light bulb moment over the last 7-8 years. And we're all coming to the same conclusion about the same person and the same people and the same policies. So what I'm telling you is glacial. It doesn't move like a hot rod. That's not the way politics move. That's not the way societies change. Because societies change in 3 ways. Number 1, you convince people that people see that this is the right thing and they get together with you. Number 2, people disagree with you and you have to convince them that they're wrong. Number 3, these people, whether you want to accept that they're wrong or not, they just will not change what they're doing. You got to wait for them to either die off or get sent to prison or something. That's the only way, the 3 ways societies change. That's it. Right there. So I said all of that to say it takes time. That being said, you've already seen the movements and the changes you're talking about. At this point, we're just waiting for it to continue compounding. That's all.
Thank you, Jason. One more question. And just to go back, because I'm kind of obsessed with these 2 books, right? Especially right now. Would you say, which would you rather be in, the 1984 scenario or the Brave New World scenario? And would you say that a significant number of the black population has unfortunately been pulled into the Brave New World dystopia? And is there any coming back? If you're familiar with how Brave New World ended, I won't spoil it, but you know how it ended. Is there any coming back from us when we lose that, we get to that level of moral decay? Is there any coming back from, the Ratchets and the Dusty Dudes, the Pookie and Ray Rays who just want to lay up for inspirational sex?
I have to remind people not to adhere to false or misleading paradigms. Republican and Democrat are terms that were not made by us nor for us. Conservative and liberal terms not made by us nor for us. 1984, Brave New World, Andromeda Strain. I can go down the list. These were not things that were made by us, nor were they made for us. 1984, for example, Eric Blair, also known as George Orwell, he wrote that originally as a commentary on the Soviet Union. That was what he had in mind. That's who he was referring to. The fact that we've drawn parallels between that and America within a couple of decades after that is very interesting. But let's be clear, the author did not have America in mind at all.
Right, that was Animal Farm, right?
No, 1984.
No, in terms of America, he had America in mind when he wrote Animal Farm, right?
No, he may have had capitalism in mind, but not America. But 1984 was specifically a commentary on the Soviet Union. I bring all that up to say that while there are lessons you can draw from literature and things like that, I think it is far better for you to be an observer of history, not of allegory. Allegories can help us enrich our knowledge and whatnot, but we need to be students of history. If you're a student of history, then you would be tracking not just, well, Obama's popular. I'm like, that's a lagging indicator, because what that would fail to do is to see what happened in just the last year. But then if all you do is look at the last year, then you fail to recognize that what happened in the last year is the result of the last decade. Where we were a decade ago doesn't quite look like we were a year ago. But in reality, he was a lot stronger a decade ago. But did you notice that it was gradually weakening? Most people didn't. I said it was. People told me I was stupid. Now, 10 years later, Jason, you hate Obama. You'd reach $10. Okay, well, it was already weakening. Everything was already in place. So if I were to tell you about books and things like that, I would be less about allegory and far more about history.
Gotcha.
That would be the most engaging thing, because if you're going to put things into practice, allegories are nice for understanding from a comprehensive 30,000 foot view. You're talking about physically changing an environment. Study history in that regard, history and current events, and then recognize the only thing I really do here is I help you all understand the narrative. That's what I help you all do. There is a narrative. I told you what the narrative was about Barack Obama. It's borne out that way. But this is only because I observe it. You can do the same thing. And that way you're actually ahead of things when you start noticing the tide get pulled out. When you can start to do that, people are going to start to say you're psychic. It's like, no, you all saw the tide get taken out too. You just figured that there was going to be a wave coming. You were kind of right. There's a wave coming. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Like I say, I mean, people want to be easily distracted, or they don't want to be patient enough to actually aggregate data, and can they be bothered to take notice of events? People want to sit with their cell phones and want to look on TV and stuff like that. And I'm talking about people who are right here in this room. They do that, and then you can get very easily distracted. You're off doing other things, and there's stuff you miss. I saw how the room's temperature changed toward Barack Obama after 2012, specifically after the murder of Trayvon Martin. That was a moment where people didn't want to hear no more. We need to wait and, hope and change gonna come. It's like you're the president of the damn United States. It's your time to shine. And Barack Obama abandoned his position. That was what took him down. He couldn't blame anyone else. The civil rights ass-kissing generation tried to hang in there and defend him. Roland Martin tried to hang tough. It didn't work. So the world didn't turn against Obama overnight. Those of us over here, if you're at the cutting edge, then you're already on that far side of the events. The rest of the society is not. You got to wait for them to catch up to where you already are. And the hard part will be you continuing to beat the drum and blow the horn to keep the noise going. But eventually, if you are consistent at rallying people's attention, then they're going to have a place to rally when they get upset about something. You also have to give people the ability to swallow their pride. Damn! I need y'all to understand, a whole lot of people, they stood for Obama and kept standing behind him, even though it was clear that he had betrayed them, because they didn't want to have to swallow their pride. They crashed all the way out. They went all the way in for him, and they didn't want to have to admit so publicly that they were wrong. So that's why Kamala Harris and Cory Booker ended up with the bill. But they realized that they were wrong. The people who had supported him, by the time it was over, they realized he was wrong. They didn't give him that business, but when Kamala Harris showed up and it was very clear that she was going to be part 3, they said, okay, we're going to give you that work. I'm too prideful and selfish and egotistical to admit I was wrong about Obama, but I can admit I can go ahead and go in on you. And that's what they did. And I've been saying that since Kamala Harris ran in 2020. I said, yeah, I mean, she's not going to make it because everybody sees you're just Obama with ovaries. And people have lost their appetite for it. And I know it is frustrating having that kind of patience. I get it. I understand it. But that's how war and movements work. The Syrians been over there fighting Assad for 13 years. They've been fighting Assad for 13 years for something that only happened back in the 70s. We're talking about something that happened in the 1470s, the 1570s. It's going to take us a little bit more than 13 years. However, take a look at all the markers and all the indicators. All the markers and all the indicators have clearly shown a seismic shift. And remember, if you're waiting for that 50%, you're going to be waiting for a long time. I only wanted the 10. Once I saw the 10%, I said, there it goes. There it goes, the 10%. That's what I was looking for. The 10%. We got that. Everything else goes from there. All we have to do now is continue doing what we're doing. Make sure that people are not confused, because that's what the media wants to do now, is try to confuse people. And they're going to try to step back in and try to drown us out with noise so they can confuse folk and tell them, well, it's not what the Black Channel says it is. It's more than that. They're going to take their shot at it. They will try. They will fail. But just be aware the bad guys are still out there. The bad guys are still out there bad guying. And once you recognize what it is, just like the situation with the illegals, once you realize why it is that it's really not changing, then you know what you would really need to do to alter it. Maybe the federal level is not the place to be doing it. Maybe the local level is. Since you know the feds are already in on that, maybe that's a local issue after all. Maybe there's more we can do about that than you might think. I'll let you stew on that for a bit. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I want to thank everyone who's contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo here. I want to thank everyone who's been giving out some memberships here tonight. FBA Queen has been giving out memberships. We appreciate that as well here. Walter, Charlotte, Carlos, Denise, DG, thank you very much for your support as well. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified Race War, soon to be 8 a.m. Thank you very much. blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program. Thank you for watching live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.